Hey everybody, welcome into the back room. I'm Andy Ostroy. We have James Sweeney and Dylan O'Brien talking about their new film, TWINLESS. We'll chat with them in just a second, but first, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you listening, and we'd love to hear your comments. So email us at backroomandy@gmail.com and or post on our social media, and we'll read some feedback next time. And if you like the podcast, please follow or subscribe and rate and review, and to be notified every time we post a new episode. So, James Sweeney is a multi-hyphenate filmmaker. He wrote, directed, produced, and co-stars in his new film, TWINLESS, which was released in theaters last week and which premiered at the 2025 Sundance Film Festival, winning the U.S. Dramatic Audience Award and a special jury award for acting for Dylan O'Brien. James was recently named one of Variety's 10 directors to watch. His debut feature, Straight Up, a screwball romantic comedy, won the Grand Jury Prize at the San Diego Asian Film Festival and was nominated for Best First Screenplay at the 2021 Independent Spirit Awards. Dylan O'Brien not only stars in TWINLESS, he also executive produced the film. He recently wrapped production on Send Help from director Sam Raimi, which will be released in January. His other recent credits include the feature films PONYBOI, Saturday Night, Not Okay, The Outfit, and Love and Monsters, and guest appearances on the television shows Fantasmas, The Other Two, and Curb Your Enthusiasm. James, Dylan, welcome into the back room.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
So, TWINLESS, an amazing movie, and it was released in theaters last week. Congrats. It is truly terrific. And so I want to start off by asking, what brought you guys together to do this film?
That's a good question. James, do you want to lead it off, or I can say from my perspective?
It was a traditional casting process. We initially met over Zoom because we met in 2020 during the pandemic. But yeah, we shared the script with Dylan's team, and that's how we initially connected.
And I responded enthusiastically about it. I read the script. I loved it. I did a dive on James. I watched his first film. I thought it was fantastic. And so, yeah, certainly wanted to meet. I think we met not days later, if that.
You also came on board as an executive producer, which I think is your first time serving in that role. What made you want to do that on this particular film?
Well, I think it was just a natural process and a byproduct of being. By the time the film did get on its feet and got the green light, I had been a part of it for 4 years at that point. So it was James who sort of extended that olive branch to me and said, is this something that you're comfortable with? He invited me into that role. At that point, for me, it felt organic too. Like we had been partners on it. In terms of commitment for quite some time, and it just felt like this one, I had the heart for this one to certainly want to dive in with James in a different capacity, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And what was that experience like? Did you learn? I mean, was there things that were surprising to you?
Yeah. Well, there's it's so funny with all producerial roles, they come in all shapes and sizes, right? So I think I had my own kind of way that I filled my version of the role and how I supported James. It's interesting. I think for me, it came down a lot to I have quite a lot of set experience, and I I think utilize that to sort of stand up for moments in the creative process that can sometimes be difficult. You're always fighting time, you're always fighting budget, you're always fighting somebody kind of in your ear. And I sort of took on a role of, trying to be a conduit for James and like those things that he was taking on so much, because he was he was wearing every hat possible. And especially on the producer side of things, there were times where with, having written the script, he was also directing the movie. He was also in it with me. His producerial responsibilities were sometimes stressing those other um, parts out. So I wanted to kind of help alleviate those stresses, I guess.
Right. So, James, you wrote, you directed, you produced, and you star in the film. You didn't want to do Crafty and Transpo too? I mean, what are you, a
He
slacker? What's
did.
going
He did. He did.
on? So,
Wish I could do transfer. That would have saved us a lot of money.
I would imagine it's fun too, driving around them trucks. So that's a lot of different roles and responsibilities, especially the business versus the creative sides. Are there any memorable examples of how those two worlds clashed for you?
You're trying to unearth my trauma. I mean, I guess I started self-producing out of necessity. I have been making short films since college. I graduated from film school in 2012. And I mean, I think we all know that uh, the path of the independent film producer is a dying breed because it's not sustainable. So it's really difficult for any filmmaker trying to find a producer who has not only experience but the skill set because nobody's teaching them because we're just sort of losing the uh, um, the cycle
Hmm.
of producers. So I self-produced most of my short films for no money, meaning, sorry, there was no budget, as well as not getting paid myself. Uh, and in retrospect, I think it really has been additive to my ability to achieve my creative vision because I try to allocate resources so that they show up where I most need them.
Hmm.
So I don't regret producing. I think it's really opened my eyes in so many ways and helped clarify my vision, but it definitely I it's a lot. And this film in particular versus my first film, which I also produced, that was challenging for different reasons, but this being a larger scale, having
Hmm.
to work with all the unions, IATSE, WJ, DGA, Teamsters, and delivering the film to Paramount and then having to redeliver it to our domestic and international distributors, Roadside Lionsgate and Sony. That's where the stresses and minutia of what being a producer entails has really kind of put me in a tailspin of like, oh gosh, do I really need to be doing this in my next movie?
Well, I hope you've been working through that trauma. The story is so unique. Where'd it come from? Are you a twin? Are there twins in your family?
I am not a twin. I did actually learn that there are twins in my family because of this film, which was a delight and a surprise to me. I've always been fascinated by twins.
Mm.
I grew up in a generation that I really believe idolizes twins because of the twin relationships in media that were very much a part of our cultural zeitgeist. Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen, Sister Sister, The Parent Trap. So I did ask for a twin for Christmas from my parents, and they couldn't make that happen, but I forgive them. And I also dated an identical twin, and I wrote the first draft of this film within a year after he broke up with me.
Mm. And so that really served as the inspiration for the film, or just sounds like it may have been a combination of things.
I think maybe that interest in twins is what led me to the discovery of a twin bereavement support group,
Got it.
which when I heard about that, I found it to be such a singular and profound sort of loss because it's also such a splitting of oneself. And so
Yeah.
much of twin identity is around this construction of a plural we. So I thought it was a really uh, interesting theme to be able to explore in a narrative long format.
And the film really is so much about profound grief and loss. Have you experienced that in your own life?
I would not compare any grief that I've experienced to the experience of these characters.
Hmm.
Uh, I think that would be an unfair link, but I think that there is universality and specificity. So in terms of trying to bring that grief on screen, it's a mixture of research, anecdotal, and imagination.
As actors, you guys are fantastic in the film. Dylan, you play two very different roles. It's hard enough mentally preparing for one character, let alone two. How do you make that separation in the preparation? And more importantly, did O'Brien and Sweeney, those producer guys, did they pay you appropriately for playing two roles?
Oh, I didn't even think about that. Uh,
Don't you get paid twice if you do that?
it's such an interesting question. I don't think so. Uh,
Nothing in the SAG contract
yeah,
about
yeah,
that?
well, yeah, we're calling SAG right after this interview. They're like, no. Um, yeah, in terms of to what you to your point of separating the characters, we built that in from the very beginning. One of the first times James and I ever spoke, I said that if it ever got to the point where we did do this together, that was something I was um, would want to fight for. I think just even in conversation of how I wanted to approach the work. Like James hadn't even like really fully approved me for the film yet, but it was just in our initial conversation that was like a very important thing that he stood by 4 years later. He worked that into the schedule for me, so we shot 3 days of filming before the Christmas break as my deceased twin. And then obviously predominantly I spend the rest of the film mostly as Roman. And we had a 2.5 week break in production and we resumed principal photography the rest of the way just as one character. So that was one way to separate in terms of physical production, and consolidating the preparation and the execution of each. And in terms of the creative, there was so many. I mean, the more we've been talking about, the more I'm realizing that the separating them and distinguishing them was the easy part. I think the conversations regarding um, the clothes, the different manner of speaking, that was always like very really instinctive for me. And even just the physicalities of each of their essences, their energies, that was all quite easy, I think, in relation to trying to achieve a synchronicity between them. Like a sort of the more important thing to me and the harder job, I think, was that they were so believably like indistinguishable at one point.
Mm.
And I think that was the bigger challenge and the more fun challenge, I think. But yeah, I really trusted James. I had a really strong starting point with the material as well that I drew so much of my own inspiration and color on from, and for 4 years it was baking too. So and we had such an amazing team in terms of our department heads and how James crewed up this movie. We were really surrounded by brilliant creatives, and everybody had wonderful contributions to that I just pulled from and used, and all came out the way it did in the end.
Mm. James, tonally, the film is pitch perfect. The humor lands perfectly when it needs to, and it's authentically dark at other times. So, as both a director and an actor, do you feel that kind of balancing act comes naturally to you?
Well, first off, thank you so much. Mm, I natural makes it sound effortless,
Hmm.
and I would counter that by saying that's the goal is to make the tonal fluctuations appear seamless, but it takes a lot of work. Writing is rewriting, and there's definitely an awareness that this could all fall flat on its face. And
Hmm.
uh, tone is also somewhat subjective, so it is instinct, but it's also, I think, being aware of the layers that are going on in each scene. So I think for me, that's sort of how I try to map it, establishing the tone early and finding that balance so it's consistent from the opening scenes, and that even like there's levity in the darkest scenes, and that there is a tinge of weight even in the lighter scenes. So I think that's sort of how I try to calibrate it.
Yeah. Well, it's not, it really isn't an easy thing to pull off. I mean, you should give yourself more credit for it because a lot of directors can't do that. It's hard to dangle back and forth between comedy and drama. My late wife was a filmmaker, and we used to talk about that all the time. And but the way she wrote, she said, I laugh one minute, I cry the next. That's how I live my life. And so,
Mm,
but it's
mm.
not easy to get that on a piece of paper or on a computer screen, and then ultimately on a movie screen. So my hat's off to you for that because it's not easy to make someone laugh and cry during a movie and have them feel like they're really watching real people's real lives.
But that, to your point, that's how I feel about life.
Yeah.
I don't believe we are contained
Hmm.
in one genre or one tone. That's how I view the world as well.
Hmm. What about the sex scene? Was there a lot of discussion or maybe even debate over how explicit to make it, how real, I guess, to make it?
I guess in terms of the frame, um, and like how James wanted to shoot sort of two profile, almost postcard wides on either side for the jump cuts. Um, I mean, I remember that being most of the discussion, um, outside of kind of pace, rhythm, and working in conjunction with the dialogue. They're very rhythmic and sort of comedic kind of moments, right? So very technical discussions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is technically challenging even getting sound because there's nowhere to attach a mic to on your body. But I'd say in terms of conversations that preceded the shooting of it, I'd say as a screenwriter, I'm not a super visual prose writer. I don't add a lot of like I don't add camera direction. I don't add a lot of extraneous I guess context. It's really mostly focused on dialogue, whether or not it's an intimate scene. Obviously, there are conversations that have to take place for, I mean, both just legally and just as a matter of care ahead of any scene like this. So I'm sure, I know when I first spoke about it, he was surprised how uh um naked the scene would be. I guess in my head it always was going to be like that because that's just the honest way to people have sex without clothes on. I do think
What?
also
Yeah,
uh
Andy.
I got to try that.
there
I got to try that.
is I mean I hesitate because I think this is actually a pretty I watch a lot of queer cinema, so to me this is a relatively tame film, but I know for a lot of audiences who maybe don't seek out the films that I'm watching, it
Hmm.
can feel explicit. So yeah, I guess there is a cognizance that that's going to be a deal breaker for some people, but I can't really cater to that audience. I think what I'm trying to do is just capture a life authentically. And I mean, I do think it's a pretty palatable scene because it's has comedy in it. But I also feel like if I had chosen to make the scene more romantic, that should have been fine too.
James, what do you want people to take away from the film, but also how do you want them to think of you as a filmmaker after they just watched your film?
So I'd say what I want people to take away from this movie is there's a line of dialogue toward the end where Dennis says, "What version of me?" In reference to how he's behaved throughout the film and how we contain multitudes. I think people will have interesting conversations on the car ride home, hopefully about forgiveness, which I think is a inherently human act. And I think people's interpretation of the ending of this film and the character's friendship is very much going to be a mirror of their own feelings about forgiveness. So that's something that I think hopefully touches people. But I also hope people have a good time. I mean, I
Hmm.
know we've talked about a lot of the deeper elements of this film, but it's, we've seen this with a lot of audiences at this point, and I think it's a banger, and I hope people enjoy the film. I hope people go on a full ride of emotions, to your point about the highs and lows. I hope it's a conversation starter.
Yeah. And before I let you guys go, let's do a quick lightning round. Favorite line from the film?
The one that's popping up to me right now is kind of an emotional one. Sorry, bring down the house, but it just always just rocks me to my core. Oh God, another one. Jesus. One of them is Roman saying, "I don't know how to be here without you," and another is Lauren Graham's line. It says, "They say that there's nothing worse than losing a child, but maybe there is." Let's see, lightning round, baby.
Yeah.
One that came to me was I don't like to talk about my personal life at work.
uh,
Oh my God. I mean, that every line that comes out of her mouth, I even like, what is this fucking light doing on? Sorry.
it's all right. You guys need to learn what a lightning round is.
Yeah, we're not lightning guys.
Who broke character the most during takes?
It's a good question. I'm typically such a guy who's can break so easy, loves to break often, if especially if I'm not believing myself. But I don't know if I've ever felt more locked in than on this movie. With that said, we're also really goofing around. I was hell bent at some points on adding things into the scenes that I knew would never be added, like a fart noise in one scene that I was adding that James was laughing at
In
my.
one scene, you did that in several scenes.
Was it several? I just remember the cookie
There were
scene.
several scenes we had to cut back.
And I was like, I'm just giving you the option. Like, I'm waiting a few seconds and then he feels awkward, so he does this. Maybe it can be a running thing. Maybe it's on the editing room floor, and I'm fine with that either.
I don't remember any farts, but
Yeah, they didn't make it. They didn't make it in.
one word to describe your co-star.
Meticulous.
Warm.
Warm. Oh,
There
jeez.
you go. All right. And if Twinless had a theme song, what would it be?
I mean,
Crazy for this girl.
crazy for this girl.
All right. There you go. Guys, good luck with the film. It's called Twinless. It came out last week. You can catch it in theaters. It is really awesome. It's one of my favorite films I've seen in years. Go see it. Guys,
Thank you so much.
Thanks
Thank you
so
for-
much, Andy. Really appreciate you having us.
thanks for coming on and talking about it. Take
Cheers. You too.
Bye.
This episode of The Back Room was edited and produced by me, Andy Ostroy. It was co-edited and co-produced by Maddie Rosenberg and co-produced by Jen Hammoud. Our theme song was composed by Andrew Hollander, and our logo was designed by Cricket Langell. And special thanks to Patricia Wind. Please take a moment to rate and review the podcast, and also follow or subscribe. Until next time, keep your eyes on Washington, Hollywood, and your own backyards, and have a great week.